Hello, welcome back to Dime to Diamonds. I am Suzanne Porske with Phoenix Financial Group, and I'm joined here today by
Mark Farquhar with Phoenix Financial Group.
And Rachelle Harp, Harp Accounting.
So good to be back in studio.
Yes.
It's been a minute.
It's nice to be out and about again. I was locked up it wasn't a dungeon. My office is very nice, but I kind of felt like I was locked
Shackled.
Shackled
because of tax season.
Yes, it was very busy. So very grateful. Yes, we did. Whew.
Oh my goodness. Well, today we're here. We're going to talk about some of the blogs on the website, phx.financial. It definitely has opened my eyes when I think about a second home, because I've definitely flirted with that idea until I started diving into the blog and going, there's a lot of things that I think we need to talk about that others might. We have a lot of clients, and as you know, they're your clients now too, that have second homes or rental properties. And I think if you're in it, it's good. But if you're contemplating it, definitely take a step back and look at all the different nuances with owning a second home or vacation home.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, so when you're considering a second home, some of the advantages are, you can take the interest, but with the Tax Jobs and Act, it's changed down to $750,000. So there's some limitations there. You can take depreciation, so that's an expense that can help reduce your tax liability. But you got to remember that there's a lot of maintenance costs that go into owning a second location, renting it out. You've got to find somebody to rent it. You've got to find somebody to clean it. So there's a lot of management that goes with that. If someone's considering that aspect, it might be a good idea to go and rent out the place first and kind of see what you think and different things. And then long term, when you're looking at that, you got to watch out at the end for capital gains, because I think that's what a lot of our clients see.
That's what I was going to say.
When they're in, it's great and it's a nice cash flow, but then when it comes time to get out, they're looking at the capital gains aspect of it.
So on the capital gains aspect, how much of that how does that work, that number work? Because I know that you were talking about when people have written off the depreciation, they have to add 28% back in?
Yeah, so they're going to have to recapture some of that depreciation back. And depending on how much the house is worth and different things, it's a factor. But when you recapture depreciation, you're taking back and saying, hey, now I have this asset and I'm going to pay taxes on that. And that's the capital gains. And depending on your income, it could be 0%, could be 15%, could be higher.
What is our threshold? Remind me, because I don't have a slide in front of me. What is that threshold right now today on capital gains?
I'm not going to be able to quote that off the top of my head, but it's not as high as a lot of people think, especially when you're looking at married filing jointly. When people consider it their Social Security and any type of retirement income that they get, that's going to add into those factors, as well as what they've been getting on their rentals or maybe even other rentals. So it ends up being a lot lower on that threshold than a lot of people think.
Right. Well, I know for Mark and I, we both love Destin, Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Like if there was a second home possibility, that would be it until you start.
Kind of like the stock market, it's hard to tell. We don't have a crystal ball that can tell people what's going to happen. So we've seen both sides of it. I mean, back in 2010, there's a lot of properties sitting. The economy wasn't very well, and then now it's booming. They're building just building and building more and more, which could be, I don't know if that's a good thing, because you get more spaces that can be rented by vacationers. That takes away that your property might not be full all the time or be rented.
I think one of the things that really scares me, and kind of getting off topic here a little bit from the blog, but is squatters. Yeah. You're not there.
Yep.
And they can go in and squat. And then guess what? You start the legal battle of getting them out.
Yeah, well, because you would think that if you were to evict somebody who shouldn't be staying in a location, that it would happen, I don't know, overnight. But is that the process? Is that how it works? Or does it take multiple notifications?
It's a process,
multiple days?
Personally, we went through it. A family member passed away and squatters went in. They give them 10 business days after you get an attorney, after you get a court date, after you go to the judge, then they get served. They have to be served. So good chance trying to catch the people that are in there. Then they have to tape it to the window because the people they're not answering the door and being served. And then the clock ticks, but then they don't just come out on the 10th business day.
That's a few months of free rent right there.
100%. And what happened during those 10 business days? Were they taking good care of your property?
Right.
Yeah,
Did they have an incentive at that point too?
Right. That's another reason I can get on about trust. If you had a trust, you could get in there and get things taken care of a lot quicker. But in that case, there wasn't. But
And then when we're talking the stock market in general, so, looking at different types of avenues, right? Because what a lot of people are using their second rental home for is not just for the vacation home, but they're using it as a passive income.
Right.
As we kind of talked, it might not be quite as passive as we talked about or we think, but what other opportunities, what type of return on investment are they getting? If it's 5 to 10%, which, I have some clients and that's about what they calculate it out as. Can you do that in the stock market? Can you find a different way to create that kind of real passive income where somebody else is managing their money through some type of investment vehicle?
that's tax deferred and has a zero floor. Just saying. Yes. So I was looking at the blog this morning again, that's up on the website, is the non-financial considerations and will it impact the tax, your cash flow? How much time are you going to spend there? Like we have a spot in Florida that we absolutely love and adore. Then all of a sudden you go, wow, do you want to be fixed to that? And that's what I think about when people want us to do timeshares. What if in 5 years you don't want to go there? What if something has changed?
Yeah.
Even in Pensacola, Florida now, they can't do spring break anymore.
Well, do you want every vacation you go on for the next 10 years to be the exact same location?
Right.
Because it makes financial sense, or do you want that opportunity to be able to see the different places?
Right. Exactly. And I got to say that if you had an extra home, and my husband and I now, we had that extra home for many years, whether it was my extra home at the lake and then his extra home out in the out in Beggs, you're constantly having to worry about maintenance. And when storms come or critters get in or all that stuff, it occupies some mental space. And then you go, well, this weekend I wanted to do this at home, but we better go to that rental.
Right. Even if they're in the house, you're wondering, are they taking care of it? And those people aren't going to take care of it like you do.
Well, you make me laugh because you were talking about where you guys rented. How many times did you go in and out the door?
Oh, yeah. It'd drive me crazy if I was there watching my property with all the people there that we take and then in and out the door. I think somebody did Airbnb guy did that where it numbers how many times the door's open, and it's like he just stresses about it like every week. He's like, this family only had it was nice. They only had X amount of times out the door, in and out, and then this family's like nonstop. So, yeah, it's just that mental thing that you're having to worry about.
Yeah, well, and trusting the family that's living there to do the just normal maintenance, right? Changing air filters, checking to make sure that there aren't any
So you have to have a property manager. So that's another expense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm so
That peace of
convinced
mind.
against it, but
Well, we have some that we have a client here in town that does Airbnb on just a regular house.
Yeah.
And and she has two. She has one at the beach and one here, and she seems to she doesn't have to worry about it as much because it's always rented out or always leased out, and it's easier to take care of. So I don't know. I think the location's another deal too.
The short-term rentals, I think that's a different, that's a totally different type of
clientele.
company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a different clientele because
because I think the one here in town is just like a person or a couple. They're here for an event or a meeting, and then they're out. So anyway, that has a
yes. So I know with the blog, it opened my eyes to so many different things, whether it's the mortgage requirements are totally different on a second house.
Yep.
He was talking about off air about the property. There's this place that him and I have both taken our families to, Crystalline, and there's this huge mansion on the property next door, and all the windows were blown out. A storm had come in. It was abandoned.
Yeah, back in 2010, it just sat for, I think, a couple of years we went. It was sitting, and then...
Well, FEMA doesn't give you. You don't qualify for any of the disaster relief when it's a second home.
Right. That's a big deal.
Well,
too.
and so if it sat empty for 3 years, whoever was owning that still was paying a mortgage. So they're operating at a loss, obviously, but it's a passive loss, which means you don't get to take it right then and there unless you have passive income to offset it. Therefore, it's carry forward. So it's not even an immediate
right.
reduction to their tax benefits. It's, prolonged out. And again, it has to be, the same type of income. So unless you then generate other passive income, you're going to be just holding on to that.
Right. And inconsistent rental income is basically what we're talking
Yeah.
about. And remember, the Orange Beach property, that inconsistent, because the mortgage still has to be paid. And even at that, she took a chunk of money and bought that property.
Yeah.
But she was counting on that as retirement income every month.
Being filled every month. But I think that, like Florida, I think that's, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I think when we were there last time, we stayed in a neighborhood off the beach, and they're just building houses left and right. So I don't know. I think could be a concern too, maybe.
Right. Over too many options.
Too many options.
So you're left with yours not being rented out.
Not full all the
or
time.
you're
Yeah.
having to lower your price to the point where you're not making a good margin.
Right.
Right. Well, and then just the liability there. I mean, you can have insurance and coverage. I was looking at the top 20 vacation spots, and the first place is New Jersey. And so I had rented a place for a little women's retreat last year in New Jersey, and they're so smushed together that everything is tri-level. And so a lot of the people needed that dumbwaiter, the elevator, to go and get them conveniently to different floors. And I got stuck, and it lost power, and it locked me between floors. And so daughter called the owner of the home, and he said, well, yes, this happens frequently. And I'm like, what if somebody has a medical episode? Is he financially responsible for me just losing my stuff in this place right now?
Right.
Talking to Jesus.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if somebody had a heart attack or something had a...
Fell down the stairs. I mean, it could be anything.
Right.
Cut themselves with your knife you have in the kitchen. I mean,
I think because we know better investments, there is a way to balance that out. You don't have to just do real estate.
So.
Yeah, Florida was on here quite a bit. Even Hawaii, but I think, gosh, you have just coming back from there. That's a long haul. It was a good 10.5 hour trip. I wouldn't want to be that far away.
Well, and you would have to have somebody managing all of it and trusting that they are managing it, because you're not going to be able to go and check on it.
Right. Absolutely. And again, insurance considerations, and how that works.
I think that should be, there's people that are in that real estate and that they know how it works and everything, and that's good. It works well for them. But if you have somebody, like we run into people where we're retiring, we're thinking about buying this property, I just think that's, I don't know, you have to worry about it, and then you're new to the system. So it would be, I think the risk for that type of client would be a lot higher than it would be if somebody that's been in the business or.
Yeah, well, and I think, if you're going to do rentals, you're looking more for a long-term asset that you're holding on to. And so, again, for someone who's going into retirement, are they really looking for that long-term asset? Maybe to pass down if their kids actually want it, but there's probably other vehicles to achieve their goal without tying themselves down to that type of a commitment.
So I have a CPA question. So it says on here, like, if it's less than 14 days a month, you don't have to report that as income. Can you let your grandkids or other family and then mark that off as rental or a donation of that?
Only if it's at market value. So you actually have to charge them, and they actually have to pay you for it to actually be considered that.
A donation?
No.
Oh.
To actually be considered income.
Okay.
Like, it has to be rented out at fair market value to your family members, or else it does not count.
You can't give them a discounted price and then count it. Okay.
Right.
Oh, and then you can't write it off. You can't, you can't say, well, I allowed this family to live here and I just happen to share DNA with them.
Yeah. Nope. Okay. When it becomes family, those type of arm's length kind of is what you're talking about.
Right.
And when it becomes that, they're very stringent in looking at, did you actually rent it out at fair market value? What you would have charged Joe Blow to come in. And if you don't, then they don't consider that actual rental.
Okay.
That's more pressure, having to worry, tell your family no.
Exactly. Or I actually have to charge you the full price. And they're like, well, I'm family.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's crazy. There's just so many interesting advantages, disadvantages. And so I highly encourage our audience, go look at our blog. We've got some good blogs in there and some good information. Again, that's at phx.financial. I was looking at the cost. The average cost in 2024 of a rental is $326.90 a day. $327 a day it's costing you. So you have to take into consideration, if you're in my seat for a client who says, should I keep it? That's a pretty high cost. You're not going to pay brokerage fees typically.
Right. Not that high.
at $327. But, are you getting it out of there, Yeah, it's just one of those. And then the availability and the just the inconvenience of always worrying about it
Right.
is my thing.
Right.
So, what is do you have a favorite vacation spot?
So I guess that would probably be when we went to Hawaii. My sister and I did. I had a friend over there. Her husband was in the military, and we went over there for Thanksgiving, and it was just beautiful. The water is amazing. The culture is different. It's just it's a fantastic place. It is a long flight to get over there, but it was a great time. The only thing I missed out on doing was swimming with the sharks, and I wish I had done it. I know.
That's what people were telling me. I didn't even see that as an option.
Well,
No, but we saw a lot of.
Oh,
we saw a
You're
baby.
in the cage.
you're in the cage, and hopefully they are out of the cage.
Okay, so there's people now there in Kauai. You can swim with them, and you're not in a cage. So for that amount, but I would maybe do a cage.
Oh, there's sharks in
would
the
cheer my
cages.
husband on to do a cage, and then send me all the pictures. I don't know if I could muster it up, but we were on we went on the, what was it called? The cruise on the side of Kauai and Nepali coast. And I told him, I was like, look at all those fins out there. Well, they were just a bunch of, what were they called? Spinner dolphins. And I'm like, so the heart drops when there are just so many of them around your boat, even though you're safe in your boat. What if the boat goes? Anyways, but they were cute. They were playing, and they were, and I was like, it's just, again, perception. Like, I was with a lot of sharks out there, but actually they're just dolphins. So I don't even know. I mean, we swam with the dolphins, held on to a dolphin, and went swimming with him in Mexico. But even at that, it was a little different. I know you're a farm girl and you love animals.
I love animals, so
I have a great respect for them.
Just look at them from the boat myself.
I'm like, I will take pictures of them. But yeah, because animals are animals.
they are.
And
And they're wild animals. I mean, I think that's the reality that people sometimes forget, even when they raise them from babies and stuff, is that you have to be respectful that they are wild animals and they have instincts that
DNA instinct.
it just is part of their nature, right? It kind of makes you think of the scorpion and the frog story where, the frog gives the ride to the scorpion after saying, no, I don't want to take you because you'll sting me halfway. And he's like, no, I won't, because then we'll both die. Well, halfway across, he did. And he said, well, now we're both going to die. And he said, it's in my nature. And I think that's a true statement that you do have to be respectful of animal kingdom and understand that you shouldn't go up to the bear. You shouldn't.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily want to swim with sharks without a cage. I'm going to say that. But some people obviously must be doing that.
Pigs. I've heard people go on special trips just to go in the water with the pigs. I'm like, so I'm like really good. I wouldn't mind watching it, even being on the shore watching it. Yeah, there's a bunch of pigs you can
Swim with?
swim and feed and play on the shores. Yeah,
It's a lot better than shark.
Safer, right?
Well, I know, but hogs can be dangerous too. So I want to take this real quick because we've got about 10 minutes left. Talking about farm animals, we have clients that retire. And so this is where this comes up. And they possibly, I want to buy a second house. That'll be fun. Oh, I want to do farming. And so what are the tax advantages and how much of a farm? Do you have to have 10 chickens to qualify or 2? Is there such a thing?
I mean, so you don't have to have a certain number of an animal, but you do actually have to have them on your property before you can apply for that agricultural license.
Okay.
At least in the state of Oklahoma, that's the process. So you already have to have the livestock, but it's not a certain number to
that's
qualify
good.
or not qualify for.
And then do you get to write off a portion of the taxes on that land?
No, so the tax side of it, you are getting usually agriculture exempt with the state of Oklahoma. And so there's certain aspects where they lower maybe your taxes from a property standpoint, but not necessarily that you get to write off some of them.
And then so every county I know is different because when I've had clients apply, they have to make sure like one county might be a minimum of 10 acres, another 5, another 20.
Yeah, and most of them are 10.
10?
But I'm not going to say that somebody can't.
So if you
find
get a
healthy
lake
chickens.
house with 10 acres and you put some chickens on it, is it going to help you any?
It's going to help you stay there because you're going to have to take care of them.
Yeah, your property taxes, it could help, but yeah, you're
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, it's
So your
stay there
chickens are
now.
gonna have to feed them, and
They can't be
go
the
there.
property managers. You got to take care of them.
Property managers themselves.
Have you found having chickens, is it the cost effective or is it more just for nutritional value?
Chickens probably are operating at a profit. They're probably the only thing on our farm that operates at a profit. Eggs are expensive. We sell a lot of eggs. They free range, but you got to be a little bit tough-hearted. Like this last weekend, we had an attack during the evening. A raccoon
Oh my God.
got 2 of our chickens. Unfortunately, our rooster fought real hard, and he was alive the next day, but then the day after that, he is gone. So unfortunately, I think he passed away too. So it's probably 3 that they got in one evening.
Did you get rid of the raccoon? Did you get him?
Well, we may catch them. We don't kill them. We take them and relocate them, which I don't know if I should be saying that on the air, but
I'd shoot them.
I was going to say I would have too.
it's for all animals. I mean, they're just trying to feed their family too.
Just
So
not here.
I just don't want them to eat my chickens, my little babies. That's also why we don't name the chickens. So we got our first batch. There was this one. Her name was Dolly. She liked to be held. She'd come up and you could pick her up and hold her. Like she liked to be held. Never had another chicken like that. But we named her. She was the first one to go. So we learned really
How'd she
quickly
die?
not to name
Just
them.
got sick or what?
No, something got her.
Okay.
Nope.
Something got him.
That would, definitely break my heart.
Yep.
On the other hand, though, we have birds that decide that they like his pergola and all his wonderful
Gee,
woodworking.
That's not good.
Send me straight over. It's not so much all of the nesting that's up there that's irritating me,
I know what it is.
but it's all the poop that's all over the furniture out there and all over the ground. And
Think about that.
yep. So I was not nice. I was a hag the other day. I dismantled the nest
We
with
had
the babies.
We had a duck once. Daughter got a duck for Easter. Ended up staying with us for a few months.
Aflac.
Aflac. He
What's
got
his
really
name?
big until he started turning to pool green. So it was over. So we took him to the what's the name? Hunter Park, and he checked on him. I guess he's
So he couldn't write it off if he just had a duck and a couple ducks, right? Because he's in the city and he doesn't have farm and okay.
Yeah. I mean, it would be hard for you to apply for the license. They're probably not going to approve it.
And you can't write it off without a license, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can't justify to the IRS that you have a farm when you have.
Yeah. He's just a pet anyway. A pet duck.
Okay.
Now, if you had 15 ducks and you were raising them and you had a plan to sell their eggs, because that is a thing,
It'd be a mess, though.
that's another story, right? So it's a lot about intent, right? So if you have
Right.
the intent to do something and you have a business plan, then we can start talking.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But
Okay.
most cities have very strict limitations on how many chickens
How many
you
you
can
can
have,
have,
how
right.
many different.
I know there's
types
a lot of people
animals
that
you
even
can
do puppies
Mhm.
or they sell cats. I don't know anybody that
Yeah.
really buys cats.
Breed him and everything. Yeah.
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 And then they're in residential neighborhoods and they're able to use it because it's a business to them.
Correct.
Okay.
Because they're trying to make a profit.
Right. So our next podcast that we're going to roll into here is talking about just the lessons from tax season, going over some ideas of maybe some possible businesses. Do you ever have to make a commitment like I'm going to do this rental property? Do they have to keep it for 5 years?
There's not this limitation where you have to keep it for 5 years. The limitations come in you have to start operating at a profit 2 out of the 5 years.
2 out of the 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you get into it and in year 1.5, you're like, these people call me every day to come change the light bulb. It's driving me crazy. I don't want it anymore. You can close the business, right? You don't necessarily have to just keep it open. You can make that call. But you have to start showing that you're moving towards making a profit.
So if you had a business for 5 years and the first 3, it was a loss, you just have to make sure those last 2 are profitable. Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for this
good to be
wonderful
back.
conversation. It's wonderful to be back. So
It is.
how can they find you, Rachelle? And what do you do? Tell us what you specialize in?
So we specialize in bringing peace of mind to individuals and business owners by understanding their financial situation and opportunities for tax savings or just better informed decisions. You can find me at www.harpaccounting.com or my cell phone, 918-346-4649.
What is a good referral to you?
A good referral is anybody who has concerns that maybe they're paying more than they should in taxes, or they just have questions that they're not getting answered by the individuals that they go to currently.
Yes. Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, I am Suzanne Porske with Phoenix Financial Group, and you can find us at phx.financial and on all the socials, as well as
Facebook,
Mark,
Instagram.
Yes, you can find Mark on all of our stuff too, and we've got a YouTube,
Right.
TikTok for Phoenix, all of the anywhere you can find
Where you want to go?
podcasts,
YouTube, TikTok,
Instagram, LinkedIn. We are definitely covering all the bases. You can find us anywhere. Anyways, thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again, or for you listening to us. If we can help you in any way, please reach out to us. We do offer free consultations either by phone, Zoom, or in person. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.